Welcome everybody to Mud Flood was Armageddon. The Mud Flood was the Armageddon. Don't let them tell you anything else unless they are willing to debate you and me in a fair and honest way. Uh, Brain fog and actual fog. I woke up a little while ago, somehow thinking it was morning. I woke up and I went, wow, 6:30. I never sleep that late in the morning. Yeah, I had been waiting for a email, going to get a phone call from my VA representative to straighten out all the trouble that the Adams State University has given me, and canceled at the last minute until tomorrow, which I thought was this morning when I woke up from a nap. And then it was all about heavy, weird fog. So I somehow have this whole lesson pulled up about what's going on, and I titled it, Does a Christian Nation Rejoice When It Suffers? Because as a Christian, I know I do. I try to. I look at it as God even corrects those he loves. So let's see what we got. Let's do that disclaimer thing first. I'll be looking at some videos talking about, I know I want to be an encouragement. As Christians, we saw this coming. I warned, you warned, we're as ready as we can be. What else can we do except what the government gives us and what the Lord has put into our life, and we go on. Is this the flood, or is this the? Oh, this is just an old video of mine. No, it's not. Lost History Squatter Man thing. What is this?
Could a global mud flood have occurred in the middle of the 18th century? One that submerged an old empire and gave rise to many more. The global mud flood of Tartaria. Wait till you hear this. Architecture around the planet, partially submerged and with striking similarities. This is the global empire that has had its existence wiped from the face of the earth, literally.
Wow,
And
welcome
relatively
to the
recently
mud
too.
flood. So everybody knows. How many times? When was the first time I showed this picture? How many times has it been shown? Yes, something weird. We've been doing it for years now. We all know the drill. You saw the thumbnail. Is that Kansas? We know these pictures now. Yeah, we need a balcony. That looks normal. That looks normal. Let's clean it up. So, yeah, we got the mud flood. We know. At least you should know. It's time to stop with, wow, what if that's true? What's this? Is this one of those computer things? Does this sound like a computer?
Are announcing thousands of cuts internationally. Germany's future requires 1.5 trillion euros in private and public investment by 2030. However, instead of developing the economy, the authorities are introducing laws like the sensational heating law, which, even despite
Despite some cosmetic changes, that has the best title for any law I've ever heard. Sensational hearing law?
are introducing laws like the sensational heating law.
Sensational. This is the best law in the whole world. I think that's what my daughter looks like, when she gets to be a little bit older. The Bundestag is mad. It is sorry that it pissed Russia off. That's what this is coming down to. How could we have been so stupid? What were we thinking? Certainly you have some money and you do not want us all to die. So I got these things. I guess I'm eligible for benefits. They just have to figure it out. And look, these benefits, for some people, I don't get these benefits. These are for the people. Well, it says here, the benefit amount depends on what school you go to, how much active duty service you've had since a very important day in world history, in theology, in mud flood was Armageddon. That's just everything. Everything the last 45 years, blessed are you if you make it, is post 9/11. That's the theology. That's premillennialism. That's where it is. That's where it started. It's premillennialism, not preterism, not postmillennialism. Those were religions founded by Jesuits that I was sucked into, and I used to teach it. Now, something called premillennialism, the millennium is past, is out there, but everybody's still got a little bit of brain foggishness going on. That's to be expected. That's to be overcome. That's this. Sharing looks like it. Okay, let's settle down. What did we learn here now? What can we tie it in all together as we wait for till 2046? It's another 22 years. Let's study up on the patroonship. This is a big deal because the Lord has brought it to your attention right now, and you're thinking, why do you, who know almost everything in the world, you're sitting there going, I don't even know what a patroonship is. Well, it's an English manor owned by the Van Rensselaer family, the Capital District of New York. That's where it is. They owned that. It was originally deeded to them. Somebody said, here you go. Here you go. It was the Dutch West India Company in 1630. They said, here you go. How about all this land that is going to be New York, Capital District? And they said, why not? Because the other patroons were doing it. And they had nearly total jurisdictional authority over the Native Americans that were there. And they moved in on, and they ignored, and all their history and everything else, let's just treat them like they don't exist. Maybe an afterthought in history, but let there be no doubt. They came here to set up the manor system. And the people who showed up here, their names are in that Doomsday book. I know it's spelled Domesday for some reason. It's Doomsday. That's the way everybody says it. That's the way it sounds cool. Henry Hudson, Port Orange. Wow, don't let Dabu 007 get that, or he'll show you 15 more times that orange is 33. I guess that's bad. Every time you see the number 33, it should be like the 13th floor on a hotel room, and those 33 connections in your spine. I guess God messed up. That's facetiousness. This is going to be, I'm not in a hurry to get this show finished. We got to look at these pictures here. So they got, in 1632, because we're going to get into a lot of surveying type of situation. The people who had this cross could make this map and you'll know everything about so much. So they had a double V, which was a W and a Y. I like the way the V's are kind of like, look, it's two V's. It means wick or Vic. What's that, lake? Anyway, that's the Hudson Bay Company, the Hudson River, New York. There's New York, and they made so much money on beavers. I know you always think of the jokes from the beaver jokes, like where it's the woman's privacy, and that's just the funniest thing to some people. You know, it's like, is that a W, an upside down M-R? That is a pretty darn cool way to sign your name. So there's an oil painting of the house that they built in 1630. Is that a beaver or a turkey in the front yard? Patroon, former name of Clinton Avenue. DeWitt Clinton, the guy who did the Erie Canal. Probably named after him, right? There it is. Nice stone building constructed in 1707. That's what they called the manor house. Still putting on additions in 1760. United States was getting ready to go like, we don't need you, England, not anymore. We're rebelling. This is a map. And it's its detailed survey map, I think. For the 1600s. Probably pretty close. Look at all the, like, look at, there's John Ritchie's at the unit or at the knit. They have very detailed. They were very careful with observing people. Where do they live? Where are they at? When we need to find them? If these people even existed. Or if they're just filling in the blanks with the pictures of a computer that, we got these names, we have to make it work. We're adding 1,000 years. We just need people faking this stuff day and night. Anti-renters. Who's anti-rent? What year is this? Oh, it's like 1700 stuff, right? Strike till the last armed foe expires. Strike for your altar and your fire. Strike for the green graves of your sires. God and your happy homes. Let the opponents of patroonery rally in their strike. Okay, they've had enough in the town of Nassau, Horg's Corner. Be there at noon. Of course, back then, they just said, the sun's above my head, it's noon. And then we go like, wait. We have those gold clocks and watches. Only some people did. Okay, now there's a waste of some pictures at the end. Just show me the Wico load of them. Manor system. Henry Hudson, Fort Orange. Woo. Interesting. So all those maps and all that cool stuff, they were laid out with a chain unit. 66 feet. 22 yards. Used, we have our standard system. See us there in green? We are the U.S. We don't need your damn metric system. And the imperial unit, subdivided into 100 leagues out of the 66. 10 chains. If you have 10 chains, 220 yards is a furlong, I guess. 80 chains is one statute mile. There you go. International mile, statute mile. Chainage. That's a running distance along a curved or straight line You need an odometer. Weights and Measure Act of 1985. So they've been approving this recently. I was alive. Imperial. I recognize this, 5,280 feet. That's a mile. The Queen Elizabeth said, let's do it that way. So we memorized that. Not every country does it. On that one map, oh, I closed it. There was that one country that said, we don't understand their past history of measurements. And it was like in Tibet or something, but chains, units. Interesting, right? I mean, the metric is 20.1168. And they made it work. They've got a working system. It's kind of foggy in it right now. The planes are crashing. We're waiting on Trump to see what happens. How bad has Biden set him up for obvious bankruptcies and failures? The imperial units, exchequer standards of 1826, system of units of money, weight, bronze meters. According to them, after the reset, when Satan was loosed, the 1,000 years, and then there was the reaping, the put in your sickle and reap, and now here we are in orphan world. And they had to fill in the blanks for all, the whole world is this architecture everywhere. And, that worked for a while, but when the Lord gets lifting a veil, people start going, hey, what about this, that, and the other thing? Somebody did something in 1766. They had a 1 foot, 2 foot, and an imperial yard. Why are they doing the 1 foot thing? That's America. And this is in Trafalgar Square, 1876. Good job at reading the Roman numerals. I guess that's one way of doing it, but since you don't practice it, I don't practice it. Hey, when was the last time you used a gill? That means minim. For the apothecaries, thank you, Sergio, for some of that apothecary stuff you sent me. I appreciate that. I'm gonna stay healthy. That's what I'm looking for. Hey, kind of got RX, like the RX pattern kind of copied that in a way. Oh, here's that map. I just didn't get to it yet, but I remembered I wanted to show you. So we're green. Whatever these knuckleheads got going up there, the Canada, your country ends in duh for a reason. I'm kidding. Not really. Sidney Gottlieb and the CIA. I mean, you're a small country that's been more, I don't know if you're more harmed than what, but this red one, what's the red one? Unknown non-metric. How's that possible? There's another one, main system of measurement mixed up, but how do you got an unknown country right there? What is that? The Gold Coast of Africa? No. Ancient Benin was here. And then that's where they started, I guess, the slave trade. What's the gold one? Myanmar. Main system of measurement unknown. You can't go there and ask them? Hey, Myanmar, what are you guys doing for your measurements? I would have thought the CIA would know that. I'm only saying that because I got a CIA thing pulled up. Not time for it yet, but look, it's the Central Intelligence Agency's World Fact Book. We're going to look at what they know, but not now, in a minute. This is as of 2019. So, Myanmar, come on, man. You can tell us your secret. What do you do to measure? How do you measure up? Wow. Here's some definitions of a minim. Remember, not the minimum, minim. Imperial minim, U.S. minim. Okay, they got both the 480. United States breaks it back down. We got a dram and a teaspoon and 1/80th of a teaspoon. I wonder if there's a difference between 1/800th of a teaspoon. Yeah. You got to be careful here. So these probably do not get used that much, even though they're saying this has to be exactly when you're doing your apothecary medicines, your microliters, the oon droppage. Huh? Where is this coming from? Okay, 1809. I wonder how they fit this in their history. We need this number. Okay, all right. Somebody's going to ask about it. Well, I guess when the everything, the veils get lifted, people start asking different things, and they go like, plane crashes, brain fog. Oh no, not lions and tigers and bears anymore. So even the one drop, they were worried about it back then. They kind of had an idea of viscosity, and somebody convinced them that they should use the term specific gravity because, well, Satan's loose. Satan's loose. Let's don't pretend. Let's just brainwash. And this is from gravity. And you, me, and everybody else in the world went, what's gravity? And they said, it's what holds you on to this spinning ball. We went, wow, I knew something had to be going on because this is weird. Loved it here in 1878, loved it again in 1663 when they killed JFK. And that's kind of basically, here's your introduction to Roman Catholicism. Well, let's have a great big Roman Catholic funeral live on TV when they couldn't even join the country club because they were considered like Jews for so long. But then one got elected because he was a war hero and he kind of took that shame off of daddy's name, right? You, me, everybody else wonders, where's that come from? That was what is that, a segue or a throwaway? Does this get any bigger? Oh, you got to do the whole make it bigger thing? Where is that thing? Okay. So here we are in Appendix G's under weights and measures. I was so happy to find this to be teaching about. I pulled this up somewhere before my nap, when I woke up thinking it was New Year's Eve. It's not. So here's your 1 quintillion. Way to go, CIA. You guys are awesome. What is this? You can't even. So we got Burma, Liberia, and the United States haven't adopted the international weight system, although use of the metric system has been sanctioned in this United States since 1866. That's, what is that? 1 year after the Civil War, they had a new president in because the other one got killed. It's up for debate. Is he good or bad? Hey, he's in public. He's probably bad, It's like a lot of people wonder about, is George Bush good or bad? Is Barack Obama good or bad? because they're bad. I'm a little distracted here for 1 second. Now I'm undistracted, but in 1 quadrillion, where's the Google? Isn't that 10 times 10 times 10? Why didn't you put that in here? A Google. I really only looked at the first ones, but they got them for all, every country, everything. The CIA knows, they would know. Your scruples, you got 3 for a gram. Hey, there's some gills. The United States still going with the gill. It's a minimum. British got going to some gills here too. Remember, a galleon is a ship. It's not a gallon. Square meters, square yards. CIA's into some weird stuff. I got this on the Wayback Machine. I guess part of the Wayback Machine is still working. Here's all these interesting, those maps that we looked at and we'll be looking at some more? Here's how they did it. They had this. That might help. They got these towers that they used from one of the recent resets, and like that, whatever that was going on from 1899 to into World War I, then the Roaring 20s. They started using these towers. I don't have time, because they're always going to be trying to figure out the size and shape of the Earth, and they're going to get it close. But they're never going to be able to do it exactly. But it's not that they weren't really into trying. They've got to figure it out. We got to make maps. We've got to know who owns what. This is something I, found myself in the middle of Oklahoma field with another man pulling this thing tight, marking it, keeping it level, learning how to be a surveyor in 1980. It sounds like it would have been fun, but since I was in the military, they were making it all like not fun at all. Zero fun. It was like, you have to learn it, but it has to be a race, Like, oh my gosh, everything is timed. From the beginning, really, you get like 2 days to just go out and do it. Then it's like, okay, now do it in 5 minutes. Really? There's actually just enough time. You can do it. You can make it. Some guys, honestly, I don't know how, can do it in like 3.5 minutes. That's not me. 4.5 minutes every time, because when you got to get these things level, and they will be in your face if it is not. I'm going to take that extra minute every time, because why not? Get it right. This used to be called that Rischenfleifel. What was that name? This is the Wansnendal, short-lived Dutch colony, 1631, somewhere in Delaware. That's where the President Biden lives, right? Didn't he commute to Washington, D.C. through? Yeah. And look at all this. This is another cool, they had to do this with that Portullian line. See the sunburst? See the sunburst? That was great timing. Yeah, sunburst. They all radiate from these lines. Petroleum from Portugal. Petroleum. They invented that for their friends, the Pope and stuff. To go like, hey, we can make a globe with these lines. That's a different story. But their maps work in a way to make it obfuscated. New Netherland, that's suspiciously the United States, right? I mean, that's what we're looking at here. Delaware, Biden, Hunter Biden. Remember, he doesn't like crack cocaine anymore or methamphetamines. That's not what he's into now, man. He's into art. He is a painter now. Somebody faked that, right? That is so fake. That is so forged. Or they just messed it up. No, how can you do that? You can't. Huh. Anyway. Those colors really last a long time. That's from 1639. That's some excellent surveying for Delaware. Schenectady. Come ahead, say it out loud. Schenectady. Wildvik, New Amsterdam. This was the Netherlands. And dang, this guy came over here and he went native. Is that what we're seeing here? Unus Americanus ex Virginia. I mean, these are the people that they found here. I guess there were black Native Americans, white Native Americans, and it's like looking in a mirror when I was 23. Well, not really. But kind of. Not too many maps. We already saw that. Archaic Dutch. Okay. They had to get their dialects together, get their, form them as companies, later turn them into nations, because you're deceiving the nations is what Satan is reminded. And then you're going to come against the camp of the saints, and then fire is going to come down, and everything we've hoped and dreamed for is going to seem silly compared to the glory and grandeur of what God has prepared for those one called, two chosen, three faithful. That's the whole thing. We don't want companies or corporations. Our nation needs to give up being a corporation. The tobacco pipes, yay. Patroonship. Looks like I hit it. And they're like, I gotta go find out what we're talking about here. Jonas, the Bronx, they're next to New York. He got one of those. He was a patroon. Here he is talking to the Native Americans going like, well, I just got here, but I'm your patroon. I'm going to set up a manor system. I'm your feudal lord. How do you like them apples? In April 22, this man probably under, the Queen of Hawaii. What did she say? No, we're our own nation. And then the general said, Your Highness, for the sake of your citizens, sign this paper or we're going to kill them. And so she ended up under house arrest. That was 1958. That's the year I was born. That's how we were rolling then. That's how they were rolling when it started. Here we go. New map. Number 43, representing the Bronx homestead. Prove it. I just pulled these up. I figured now that I know I'm awake, because I woke up, it's one thing. Remember how I told you I thought I took a nap and I woke up and I thought it was the new morning. It was New Year's Eve. So I got up and started make a cup of coffee the next morning. So here I am. It's 10:18 in the mountains time of United States, and I drank a cup of coffee before I realized it's not morning. For an old guy, that's a big deal. I'm not saying I'm in a routine, but I love a routine. There's that looks like an I. That looks like an ampersand of at, doesn't it? That's how it's almost the opposite of how I write an ampersand, but basically the hook does end up coming through the same way. There's got to be something better on this map than that. Well, so where is 43? Is that 43 or 42? That doesn't look that big. Had to follow it over here. There it is. So this was his. So they were giving away a lot of these patroon ships. So the Bronx guy that made the Bronx, he was just one of the many. But close enough to so there he is, close enough to the island to be right there by New York? Because this is the guy I thought did the Bronx. Jonas Bronx. Nope, he's from the Faroe Islands, or there's a Bronx Island there. Seal of the New Netherlands. Settler from the Dutch colony, after whom Bronx River and by extension the county and New York City borough of the Bronx are named. Portrays him as a Mennonite who fled the Netherlands to Sweden because of religious persecution. He got set up with the manorship and said, "You're the new feudal boy." Oh, this is what they were saying in 1908. I don't think they were into exposing the true history back in 1908, because that was a really crazy time back then. Everybody was gunning up for war, defending, Darwinism, and I mean, racism was everywhere. Almost everywhere, I'm sure. But anyway, so they've got a history of this guy. Thought you might want to know about the Bronx. It sounded interesting to me. Somehow expansionists, Mohican, the last of the Mohicans, and the Mohawks in the north had driven them south the year before, where they sought protection from the Dutch. Keith refused aid despite the company's previous guarantees to the tribes to provide it. Does the Lord just, I'm sure that's like one of the few admissions in this whole thing, and the Lord just popped it right up there. So from the very beginning, now whether they were still using the Julian calendar in 1666 to 1711 in the Julian, the Gregorian calendar, 1711 is the reset. That's why it's confusing. It's like Satan is there like, I'm not so crafty as to make it super easy for them. I know we need God's help, but still. that Julian and Gregorian calendar, the way that changeover, that stumped me for over a year. Who's Ann Hutchinson? I've heard that name. Puritan spiritual advisor. Now, really, is that what you've heard about the Puritans? That they had, I mean, I've always heard that, oh, and that was somehow a participant in the antinomian controversy. Antinomian means against the law. They don't like law. Antinomian, also known as the Free Grace controversy, was the religious and political conflict everywhere in the world around 1636 to 1638. It's never ended. People always want to go, free will, free grace. Free will, free grace. Anne Hutchinson was a Puritan spiritual advisor, religious reformer, and an important participant. Now, who would have thought it? Because I always thought that every woman was looked down on, laughed at, said, shut up, sit down. And who knows, maybe this girl should have been told that. But let's see, John Cotton, remember Cotton Mather was probably named after him. These guys were all in on it together. Their writings, of course, what really was true? John Williamson, founder of Roman Catholic, I believe, or tolerant of the Roman Catholics, founded Rhode Island, and he was sent there by the Providence Plantations, because Rhode Island and Providence Plantation was their real name of the first. That's Rhode Island's full first name. Oh, here it is, Colony of Rhode Island and Providence Plantations. Keith's War, I heard that was a bad one. A lot of revenge. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. And that's why I think I can sit here pretty comfortable, not too worried about, like, oh, no, I don't have my classes picked out for next semester. Well, 2 weeks is a long time for me. 2 weeks is a long time for you right now. It's going to be, you're going to wish you knew what was, right now you can't barely, if I mention it in the back of your mind, you're wondering, what's it going to be like the day after Trump gets inaugurated? Well, there's going to be plenty to worry about, like tomorrow, the next day, and last week, before Christmas, the drones, and now the fog. But this is a day that the Lord has made. We're living, we're learning. We know we have that hope. Is this our home? Or have we been waiting for this our whole life? Go get a man. Go, girl. We don't know enough. We can't judge her or what they say about her. Now, in the United States, there was a DeVries. Isn't that these guys that are trying to fake that Shakespeare crap? Put it right there, like, Shakespeare really is taking us to the Giza pyramids. I've heard that for the last 8-9 years. And now there's a DeVries in Bronx or something. Well, in New York. He's a patroon, I'm sure. You guys reading ahead? I try to read ahead. These nice ships, these were used as prison ships in the Revolutionary Wars and stuff, because after the reset, the 17th century is 1600s. These were their prison ships. If you had never Googled that prison ship or seen some of the videos I or others have made, because they built really well. They're Golden Age stuff. Way to go, dude. Got your picture painted there. Oh, I see that there's only 2 pictures. I see you have a laurel wreath on your head, and I'm wondering what's up with that. Are you a Caesar, or are you pretending to be a Caesar, or did you tell people this is what I wear, or we haven't come up with wigs yet? Who knows? Das Messen und Klagen David Lurven. He's basically saying, I'm here wearing my laurel wreath with all of this fancy stuff in the year 653 of our Lord. Anno Domini. Hallelujah. You don't have to believe it. You can always say, no, that's been used as a one. About not even 3% of the time. But they're not going to let it go. They're not going to go like, oh, you're right. You got me, man. No, they're always going to say, you're so stupid. And if you don't take every medical advice, we're going to kill you. And we're going to go, you can't kill us if you can't catch us. I think we're going to, that whole go along easy stuff might turn into come and catch me if you can, because you're going to be busy with your hands full of cities on fire, and you're not going to be there. Lord willing. I know it's not my plan to be there. Hey, a Patroon finally, right? How long have we been going at here? 46 minutes. And we're at the Patroons. Finally. In the United States, a Patroon. So I guess don't look for it in the other world. It's when they came over here and we started using the Indians, the Native Americans. You are now, we're your manorial right. We're your feudal gods. What they had in England under the Doomsday, because that's definitely a picture from the Doomsday. Even their clothes and everything, we own this land now. We are Dutch colonists and we're here to stay until we turn it over or sell it or nationalize something. So deeded tracks, here you go. Go make us some money. We're called patroon ships, later plantations, I guess. We don't know when exactly they changed it, but the Dutch West India Company was able to claim they had the jurisdiction to hold on your hats, powerful rights and privileges of being a patroon were like supposedly the donation of Pippin. Allegedly, a king gave the Pope, you know what? Everything I own, which is everything, I give to you for in perpetuity, which means nobody can, even though they claim to own it, it's always yours. That's convenient, to have in your back pocket. It probably feels like Bill Murray and his the Dalai Lama thing, So this guy got a little write-up. He's from the Ukrainian, Russian. Allegedly, he was an Eastern Orthodox person, monk, traveler from, you ever heard of that town? It's they should not have told Russia, mind your own business or whatever, or you're stupid, Russia, or go away, things like that. They should have done the peace treaty thing that Boris Johnson talked them out of. But hey, in hindsight, the Lord's will be done, and we're going to deal with it. If they think they're a Christian country, are they glad they're suffering now? Was Russia supposed to be glad they suffered what they said so much in World War II? This guy, on his map that we'll look at, he signs his name Vasilii Barsky. This Grigorovich, I think, is just some Russian way to obfuscate finding this guy so that you can look him up on your own. It looks like they're not going to give us much, but super important. So we're going to stick with it. Best remembered as the scholar. Okay, yeah, he stayed here twice. I think that is on the map. And I was reading, yes, that's how this all happened. Oh, got it. I was reading this book and I saw that map for the first time. And I said, what in the world did this guy draw? And it was that guy who drew that map. This one. And so now the rest of the thumbnail, this is like that hemp marijuana. I'm out of cigarettes, so I had to roll something. So that's right. That's how we got here. Well, we're waiting on tomorrow because my meeting that I had been waiting on now for 4.5 months was postponed at the last minute. I'm not mad. I don't care. I mean, I really don't care. So here's that guy. He's the one who did it. I saw his name in this book. He made that map. Just a crazy story where he traveled around for 20 years. Conflict with the academy, went out on his own in Damascus. He ended up drawing that painting. It says that was one of his things. He's into drawing. Returned to Constantinople, and they accused him of Philhellenism, which is you see Hellenism. That's all over the New Testament, you know. And Philhellenism is like we need to be a nation. We need to be our own nation. Something in Constantinople. This is this guy. He's the one that did it and charted it, and we know about it. Returned to Constantinople, which Istanbul, much in 1746. Believe that? It'd be, you know, Constantinople became the capital. Can you read along with me there? Of the Roman Empire during the reign of, you know, the made-up Constantine the Great in 330 of the fake Middle Ages type baloney. You don't believe me? I know you know this is a setup, which is why you don't care if America is judged a little bit. You know, as long as you know that it's the Lord's will, you're in the Lord's will. You know something's up. If your number's up, you're good with that. I'm good with it. So we got it all traced back here. So this is making it up right after 1711 when all this came down. This guy's putting out a map that, I mean, in my History of Christian Art book, it looks exactly like the one in the map, the one I used for the thumbnail. He drew it, this guy. And he visited here twice, it says. You know, that's not the best picture to make it look cool, is it? But as Mudflutter, you know, okay, it's hard. They built it on a mountain 1,000 years ago. Studying Christianity, because everybody did. Everybody just drew pictures, or they faked them of what was going on because they had to match to the floors that were there. Still there. going to be there. I mean, what are you doing on that scaffolding, guys? Tuck pointing? Doesn't look like it's, it's going to make it. You a little clean that moss off every now and then. It's hard for it to keep up on the uptake when you hung over or something. That's what we got here. Double-headed eagle. Yeah, they're everywhere. It's a portrait of what's going on in your head, That guy drew a map of it, and he did the splitting image of it because it's been there. It's going to be there. It's the back road. Little Spanish view, little Spanish flavor, Black Madonna, the three-handed icon of Theotokos. Is that a church they wrote to in the Bible? Yeah, like we're not going to look that up. Eastern Orthodox. We just learned about them that they don't believe in original sin. I just did a Bible study and I remember hearing that. They do not believe in original sin, so they didn't care in the 1840s if the fake pope said that Mary was born without sin. They think everybody's born without sin. That's a Trinity-loving, messed up thing. They have a whole name. That's a whole position in art to venerate Mary, I'm sure, to make them co-equal. Acting as Christians during the Golden Age, ruled with a rod of iron, and then afterwards, oh no, changing the religions and the times. We'll look at some of the pictures. Not the best. Not the, you could say this is where he visited. The guy who did that map. Serbia, Ukraine. Turned out Russia calls them Nazis. That's what Russia calls them. Look at that compared to this window. The Nursing Madonna style. That's another one. I'd say I'm not a fan. Back to that painting. So here's a sculpture on a rock. So this is, would be in honor of St. Peter, another godly man. They talk about in the Bible that, the Roman Catholics love to mess it up. So anyway, this is only one of the things. It says it was founded. Now we would look at that as 198. They added 1,000 years, and people were, that survived, the people that fled to the mountains and said, "Fall on us, save us from the wrath to come," and survived and moved on into the Golden Age. For some reason, there were people who survived, always a remnant, And then there were martyrs and believers that were changed in 70 AD. And then they lived 1,000 years. He ruled them with the rod of iron. People were being born. Then there was this reaping. And here we go. They got this. So we got the dates. Then they built it in. It's what they say. That it's been there, but they want us to believe that they all of a sudden became religious and decided they would build something for St. Peter or somebody named after St. Peter. That's what that's all about. Let's see what else we got. So here's, oh no. Anyway, that's a big deal. Did I get a picture of that place? Only the thumbnail one? It looked just like the one on the map. Look at that. That's built into the bedrock, right? Kind of reminds me of that Bible verse. Art thou better than populous snow? Nahum. Sometimes I have to switch back. I mean, the New English Standard Version, I don't say I have it even close to memorized, but I used to do it only came out in the late 70s. So I was into the KJV for a long time. It is Nahum. It's not Habakkuk. It's Nahum 3:8. Art thou better than Thebes, that set by the Nile? And that would have been in the United States. With water around the sea, the water, her wall. Cush was her strength. Now, I just don't like that version that much. Let's read it in the New King James. Art thou better than No Aman? That was situated by the river, that had waters around her, whose rampart was the sea, whose wall was the sea. And those bedrock walls reminded me of that. The book of Nahum is, whoa, this is pretty much they lived large. They got judged too. The glittering spear, the flashing sword, host of slain, heaps of corpses, dead bodies without end. They stumble over the bodies, all for the countless whorings of the prostitute, graceful and of deadly charm, who betrays nations with her whorings and people with her charm. Behold, I am against you. Set your face. I will make nations look at your nakedness. First, he's going to redevelop the nations in our time, so they go down. But some of them survived. They could rebuild them. Ooh, it just kept coming. That was chapter 3. In verse 2, you get the chariots, flashing metal, chariots racing madly through the street, the gleam like torches, dart like lightning, stumble as they go, set up the siege tower. palace melts away. It's all bad. You don't want to be there. You never want to be in the city when the God judges. You've been warned. It's not like it's not like I'm going to stop warning you. So we're switching gears here a little bit. I did get into this Phrygian cap celebration here. Now, this is a map where Lord Byron, this sex pervert, visited there, and these caps were a big part of it. Look at him waving laurels. This is a big deal. Lord Byron's come to town with his little tiny head hat. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. A fez was there, not quite a Phrygian cap. Although it's a different kind of fez, it's not stiff. We'll put a date on this. What do we got going? So this bishop is saying, hey, look, I'm Lord Byron. I'm visiting your island. These young ladies should run for their lives if he's in town because he makes them fall in love, they rape him, and then he leaves them for another one, and he ends up writing books that we'll get to later. So we're looking at the patroons, we're looking at Greece, we're looking at the Great Division when they wanted to be their own country. What was that word? What was that word? Philio-Hellenism? The Hellenistics? Make the Greek, remember the Greek and the Jew and the Christians, Istanbul, Constantinople, and Turkey's right there. They called that Asia. Where were the 7 churches? In Turkey. And we got this. And a statue, they made a statue to the pervert, Lord Byron, the Masonic raper of women, homosexual, and just pervert. But in their royal world, it's kind of like Jesus and Mary. To them it is. Lord Byron in Athens, in the arms of Athena, it looked like. So somehow Santa Rosa, Count of Santa Rosa, was this comb over. As stylish hat wearing Karl von Ehrenthal. Another stylish hat wearing dude. Skeptical looking Giuseppe. From a line of skeptical Giuseppes. What is this? Where are we? So this is that Philhellenism, not to be confused with anything else. It basically means a love of Greek culture. Boy, they went through that, didn't they, when they came back into the Renaissance? Let's get into the Greek culture. Hey, we can't get enough Plato, Aristotle, the Socrates. Paco is going to have that shoved down his throat as the answer to all the problems in the world, all of his life. You too, more than likely. The Hellenism, the love of Greek culture. I don't mind some Greek culture when they got repenting and they were accepting the Lord and the gift of tongues came on them. I know we don't do the tongues anymore as science passed away, but for the people in that time, that was a big, big deal, super big deal. The sign of God that happened to the faithful Hebrews happened to the Gentiles. It was the ultimate end of the time of the Gentiles from Nebuchadnezzar until the time of our Savior. And then afterwards being treated. There are true Christians that are the majority of the world that, are not of physical Hebrews, as it was told to Abraham. So he loved that Greek style. He hated God. He was waiting for a Superman, an Ubermensch, to show up and be the ultimate fascist. So I was pretty hard on Lord Byron, don't you think? Well, let's look at this part. So after he got done raping and breaking up and being a homo in one town, he'd move on. Ever increasing debts, sexual escapades, actresses, continuing obsession with another girl, and he was just messed up. Let's just say I'm not wrong. Give me the benefit of the doubt for one freaking time, please. This guy was bad. And I just want to get on with it here. So after another one of the breakups of his domestic life, and by pressure on the part of his creditors, which led to the sale of his library. Remember, he's famous around the world. You see those statues? Byron left England and never returned. Despite his dying wishes, however, his body was returned for burial in England. He journeyed through Belgium and continued up the Rhine River. In the summer of 1860, he settled by the Villa del Tate by Lake Geneva. You ever heard of that? Calvinism much? Switzerland, his personal physician and teacher of the Masonic and occult arts, decided to go away for a weekend. There, Byron befriended the poet Percy Shelley and another young author. That's Mary Shelley. That's not the Mary Goodwin, Shelley's future wife. So they're just showing the AI is not perfect. The Wikipedia is not perfect. I've heard rumors that you should be skeptical of Wikipedia. Now I believe it. So he was also joined by Mary's stepsister, another young 14, 15-year-old age girl. That's whom he liked, with whom he'd had an affair in London. So obviously, she must have thought they were in love for some reason. So they has a birth of a child, died at age 5 under the care of Byron later in life. So it's all coming down to that weekend where several times Byron went to see her and her group, informal intellectual and literary gathering centered on Germain d'Estaing. During that time period, the establishment of the Napoleonic First Empire, 1804. We just did that. We just went over the whole history of their fake Roman religions, and now we got this bullshit. Excuse my language. Anyway, back to that weekend. Kept indoors, that group of old perverts that will nail anything that moves because they have no fear of God, were kept inside by incessant rain. And they, of course, called it that wet, ungenial summer. Over 3 days in June, those 3 men and those 2 girls started reading scary stories. One of the only books they had published in 1812 about scary stories, and then started writing their own. And supposedly Lord Byron gave her an outline, and Mary Shelley produced what would become Frankenstein. And we've seen the edits. You can anyway, if you want to even believe their history, like I got sucked into. They called it the modern Prometheus. The other guy and his girl wrote The Vampire, which became the first romantic vampire genre. Well, the girl was kind of like, what did that, when they, in that movie Interview with the Vampire, what was that young girl that ended up kissing Spider-Man hanging upside down? What did she say after Tom Cruise, the vampire, bit her in the neck? More? Yeah, something like that. And that was that. It started that whole system. Were they anti-God? I think so. All part of Satan's plan. I mean, look at the movies, the Marvel movies. It's the same thing. It's only that right now people believe it. They honestly believe in Atlantis. They don't, if they don't believe in God. But here's Lord Byron. Before he went dead, when he wasn't out raping, he was going around the world going like, I got money, I got rhythm. Hide your girls who could ask for anything more. That's the world. Am I sharing? I hope I am. Gosh, there's a lot about Lord Byron and stuff, huh? I mean, they hid everything was good. Nothing good until he went broke, I guess. Did he fake it until he make it? That famous person that likes to draw, that drew that map, drew this. There's, oh, my head. Oh, my head. The sheet covers that he was a clubfoot. He was only rich scoring these girls because he had all kinds of money to get them drunk. I'm not that there's anything wrong with being a clubfoot. He obviously wasn't into it. So here's what are these? These are a list of the girls that he. I mean, they don't hide it. They don't hide it. These girls, some of these girls killed themselves after he realized they told, I was lying to you. I was never going to marry you. Take that. Deal with it. And that's how we got all of those stories about, you know, oh, vampires, they don't like the light. They don't believe that the life is in the blood. They drink it like adrenochrome. It goes on and on. It's turned into, hey, thanks, Blavatsky. Thanks, Alistair Howley or Huxley. Jeez, I know I've said that name a million times, right? Smyrna. Caged to Ride to Constantinople, HMS, Salzette, all the Mayan time, you know, being a pervert. But that's okay. So who's this girl here? She's that philosopher, woman of letters, social theorist. She's one of those new Hellenist, lover of Greek culture. Salon and writer. They could, you know, they couldn't hold office, but they held power. She's one of those, huh? It seems like you can be all you want to be. You know, I'm this, I'm that, I'm a philosopher. But what if Lord Byron hit her up at the right time, in the right places? Things would have been different for her, not the other one. But they're going to do what they do. This is their history as they started what they said to get you where you are now, believing their fake history. You saw the thumbnails, you know that's not real. It's Napoleon Bonaparte, about to be emperor. Just draw what you want. The castles are still there. Their fake history is still there. Lord Byron, what a life. And anyway, this girl right there in it. Right there in it. The whole Coppet group thing. It says informal, intellectual, according to who? Literary gathering centered on her. During the time period, some kings were going to last for a while. Bourbon Restoration. Nope, they went with Napoleon. Referred to the guests as the Estate General of European opinion. Wow. Look at this place where they like to host these things. I guess they were very serious, or they want us to believe that they were very serious about running the whole world and how it was going to happen. This whole Estates General, was it after the ancient regime? Look at that, back to King Philip. That was Artaxerxes' father's name. And he was from Greece, had some run-ins with Nebuchadnezzar's father or ancestors. We got to keep it going. Here's that one town of the guy that drew the map that I like, I had to look up because I was reading that History of Christianity and Art or something. I showed it earlier. Nice steps. Because there's a door there. Wow. That's crazy. And the map just, it looks the same, the same as the map. That we went over survey and everything to get here. And it's right by the sea. That's one of the ones where you could tell the enemies, come and get me, I guess. Where the people are running away from somebody else. They're going like down there on the bottom going, we hate you. And the people at the top are going, no kidding. We get it. You're not too hard. And this is another one dedicated to Peter. Simon of Petra. What does that mean? Simon's Rock. Okay. Rock. Simon means rock. So it means rock. Stone rock. Let's wrap this up. I guess I had this up just to show it's always been about the heroin and everything else. To me, this was a big day.
Kind of really competition with the Soviets. It was going to go from military competition much more into civilian competition. And what happened was interesting because we were working on the documentary, negotiated, and it was very important at the time. This was the post-Vietnam War era. There was a revelation going on inside the Beltway.
Oh, he's live from Istanbul. It seems to be what the father wants you to think about. Turkey, Ottomans, Germans. Everyone in Asia has departed me, 2 Timothy 1:15. They all went bad. I can see why.
That the idea that you could really just use the military endlessly and solve any kind of problem anywhere in the world was really being questioned. So we were really looking at that point to a new kind of really competition with the Soviets. It was going to go from military competition much more into civilian competition. And what happened was interesting because we were working on the documentary about this issue. We were interviewing people like John Galbraith and Paul Warnke, who negotiated the treaty. Galbraith made it very clear, in fact, that at that moment in time,
I will not allow the Taliban to reverse the gains of our last 2 decades. How'd that work out?
Really needed to reinvest in the civilian economy, that we really had reached the point of the diminishing returns. When you spend so much in the military, you actually undermine your civilian economy. So this is all part of the thinking. Well, what happened on December 27th, 1979 seemed miraculous to us.
Wow. What date? December.
Because we were working on the documentary about this issue. We were interviewing people like John Galbraith and Paul Warnke, who negotiated the treaty. Galbraith made it very clear, in fact, that at that moment in time, we really needed to reinvest in the civilian economy, that we really had reached the point of the diminishing returns. When you spend so much in the military, you actually undermine your civilian economy. So this is all part of the thinking. Well, what happened on December 27th, 1979 seemed...
Wow. So that's like almost to the day. Let's keep going.
Lebensstrahl, and so did Germany. What was it? And the Germans were no more into it. You can't be more into it than being, Japan, being honored to be in, one of these things. There just been resets. They were getting ready for the next 1,000 years, and they knew that the populations weren't there yet.
Was supposed to be 1,000-year Reich, if I'm
They
not
needed
mistaken.
the living room, Lebensstrahl, and so did Germany. What was it? And the Germans were no more into it. You can't be more into it than being
Go back to the same spot.
in their little mafia world. Secret orders, oaths of Omatra, of death. You think they got a nice house? The Order of the Garter? I'll bet it wasn't always the Order of the Garter. I'll bet it was just another one of your cymatic pattern castles they took over and said, no, we own it now. And these are our flags and the people we like.
Whatever. Do I really sound like that?
Whenever World War II was.
Carefully plotted on aerial maps. Stand up is the order from the jump master.
Hook up.
I did that 11 times when I was in the Army.
Static lines.
Shut up.
The first 5 were fun because in the daytime it's fun. The nighttime it's too worrying. Hey, that's me for sure.
Fake Israel.
I'm
All
tired of
was
that one.
1948. Because it wasn't that many years before that was the next big step, 1945. And I can only say that in 1945, I'll start with the politics first. That's when all the nations had to agree, okay, look, we can't keep spending all of our resources. We've faked the 5-year cover-up of the war. And we have, during that 5 years, I have a whole other video that I wrote about the other night. So I won't get into that now of how they faked the bomb and faked peace and that they just used all of those people.
That's the video I can't remember which one I did where I talked about that one because I want to do it again.
Sino-Russia era. Let's just we'll walk down. I'll hit all of these and show you what we're going to be studying for the next hour and a half, probably.
Think you will.
By the 9th, this is the 8th.
They pick a name. Who knows if it's real? But once again, it's Daniel Charlie Wilson. He believes that the September 11 attacks were an inside job. Those attacks were fake, full of crisis actors. Newtown, Connecticut, Uvalde, crisis actors. The 41-year-old from Ontario, not even the United States, believes the January 6th insurrection was crazy. Doesn't like vaccines. He believes in every conspiracy except flat Earth. And the JFK, that America could be anything less than a light on the hill. These white supremacists, as they're being led to be, they aren't receiving praise. Instead, they're met with incredulity. Some posters said the marchers were clearly FBI agents or members of Antifa. Trump supporters, they're only trying to defame Trump supporters. It was just another false flag. And now this new Q is actually a government thing. Something's going on. And it started with DARPA in 1958.
So it says 2 years ago, but this is really, it will soon say 3 years ago, because I left Tommy's house. I went to a place called Comfort House, Warriors Rescue, stayed in motels for a couple of months, and then college. And I've been in college for a year and a half, right? Got here back into Colorado late July, 2 years ago. So I don't know why I must have just posted this for you to listen to now.
I showed in an earlier video today a man named Houston, Thomas Charles Houston. Doesn't even get had his page taken down, I guess. That page is taken down. It used to have one. Came to light during the church Watergate investigations, what was going on. And he talked about COINTELPRO, MK Ultra, things that they had never heard about that he was caught up in. And he goes like, they said do this, so I did it. I didn't know they were doing all these other things. Who knows? But they had the abilities, and nobody knew about it. He said the president didn't know about it. The CIA knew about it, and that was it. Not much of a page, but it did talk about, the White House plumbers. They would leak classified information. It wasn't just, they were fixers. They would set people up. I'm helping the president stop leaks. And I know that people used to listen to G. Gordon Liddy because he was a rebellious sex fiend that just talked about how it was like, yeah, I did it because I loved America.
Yeah.
I don't think that.
Welcome to Things You Should Know, the Great War Edition.
I'm pretty safe. And all my videos say this too. It's just a matter of clicking the right button. So anyway, here's their version. Am I streaming? I am streaming.
Welcome to Things You Should Know, the Great War Edition. While this series is not about the politics of the First World War, otherwise known as the Great War, to not give you a not-so-brief explanation of why it started would be a disservice to all watching. This explanation is by no means complete or in-depth, just something to keep in mind. The causes of the war can be broken down into the following things: the expansion of imperialism, nationalism, and militarism, the alliances that were caused by the imperialism, nationalism, and materialism, and finally, the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand, the match that lit the flame of war. For more than 50 years leading up to the Great War, many European countries had started expanding their power in other portions of the world,
Not many, just a few white ones.
something we call imperialism. In this case, it was mostly in Asia and Africa, resulting in competition between European countries thousands of miles away in foreign lands. The expansion and proxy wars that occurred because of it was also partially fueled by the new
Oh, look at Japan here, sitting back. They're in on it. They're in on it. Japan thought they were going to get to be treated like other white races, but when they got double crossed, they unleashed world terror.
wars that occurred because of it was also partially fueled by the new military technologies and larger overall militaries. By the start of the war, Germany and Great Britain had expanded their navies. The armies of all the countries were modernizing, and this new influence of military technology also influenced both Russia and Germany's cultures. Both cultures were undergoing a military bent, increasing the belief by both that using their militaries might be an effective political tool. Now,
Oh, a little quick on the pause button there. I'm waiting to show you one of their
Steampunk, huh?
steampunk battleships, torpedo ship or something.
Well, do it.
nationalism itself had a large influence as well. Each country attempting to prove their superiority over the other countries, combined with the desire for the Slavic people in Bosnia and Herzegovina wanting to break away from Austria-Hungary and become part of Serbia. All these factors led to
Austria-Hungary.
a more direct cause of war, the alliance.
Istanbul.
between
When it comes up, I'm gonna go steampunk, baby. But anyway, here's a good list of the, who was, the Triple Alliance, Triple Entente, colonial right.
Where's that thing? Was it all the way up here before I showed the steampunk ships?
one torpedo boat,
Steampunk, baby.
4 gunboats.
Thank you
and
for
single
putting
gun
up with
vessel.
my
Alfred
lameness.
Meyer Waldeck was the commander of the German forces.
I don't
and
care.
Immediately moved his men back from the 2
That was steampunky.
We could be brothers. When I was young,
It is. It's like looking in a mirror. That's weird.
What? An anti-Russian satirical map produced by a Japanese student at Keio University during the Russo-Japanese War. It follows the
This
design
genius.
for a
Look at
similar
that.
map,
Look at
first
Turkey.
published in 1877. So it's backing up some. Wonder if it gets big. Don't you like those
Get big.
ones when they get big and they're funny? It's like, look at Russia. It's an octopus. That's what Japan wants you to think. They're trying. Russia's an octopus.
What was China?
That probably means Russia. I thought each thing was a separate word.
Yeah, this means Russia. That's 3 words.
It's taking all of the warlords by the hand.
Who's that?
Wow. Watch out for Russia. You should have been watching out for the mafia in China.
That's really kind of a neat map.
Anyway, they're going to war. Look
1904.
at that. Black octopus is a name newly given to Russia by certain prominent Englishmen. For the black octopus is so avaricious that he stretches out his 8 arms in all directions and seizes up everything that comes within his reach. But as it sometimes happens,
Remember how I said I read ahead? Look at that where it says, indeed, a Japanese proverb says, great avarice is like unselfishness. Huh.
gets wounded seriously, even by a small fish, owing to his too much covetousness. Indeed, a Japanese proverb says, great avarice is like unselfishness.
We Japanese need not to say much on the cause of the present war. Suffice it to say that the further existence of the black octopus will dispense entirely upon.
You know what I think that this map was trying to do was kind of like, I wonder if I get into it. They're bragging because Japan kicked Russia's ass in a couple of different wars, but everybody was so afraid of them.
Hey, it's October when I'm doing this video. We're
And
looking
then
at the
China surrendered to Japan.
Russo-Japanese War, 1904 to 1905. Whoever made these uniforms, they're probably still in business today. Down and
Yeah, and then after the war, you know, after we defeated the Nazis, the Soviets never declared war on Japan, even though they were allies against the Nazis with us. And then after we supposedly, Hitler killed himself in April, moving up to August when they bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the Nazis, Germany, Russia, the United States, Australia, and England all attacked Manchuria, which was actually where 1 million Japanese army, they had it defended because the homeland of Tokyo was firebombed, but they were still there because they lived in tunnels underground. So when the rest of the white people saw that Japan was about to win the war of risk in 1945, they cheated. They said, no way. But that was all Satan's plan. And they're covering up and faking the racist past of this world as it gets closer and closer to the end. Now let's end it up with a couple of Bible studies. I thank you people for chiming in here. I will go back and read the comments. If there's any real pressing questions, it's like, why aren't you paying attention to me? Drop it in there. I'll look at the very end. But we need to go over these Bibles. Here's that one that said, oh, look, 14 hours ago, supposed to meet at 11 o'clock. So they called me and said, yeah, how about 11 o'clock tomorrow? Because your apartment is being rescheduled today. I don't care. I really don't care. After 4.5 months of being jerked around, am I supposed to go, oh, one more day? Oh, no, I'm going to lose my mind. No, I want to talk about this Bible verse. You and its appearance. It's only 2 times. Rad, man. That's so rad, I can't believe it. It's your aspect to have dominion, to rule in reality. That's what it means. And it's in Daniel 2:31 and Daniel 3:26. So I can't remember. Does that mean it's in Aramaic? Yes. Okay. So it relates to this word. Oh, it doesn't pop up like in Wikipedia. What are we doing here? So we're studying these words here. Go backwards to find out what verse I was looking at. Oh, walking in the midst of the fire. And the 4th was like, you know, this is important to me because I didn't have time to, I was talking to Mr. Sergio. He's kind of salty, like you want to be the salt of the earth, right? So this is an important verse to me. Set it up, quick. Wait. Daniel 3:25. 4 men I see looked up. He answered, They're not hurt. They're walking in the mist, loosed. And one of them, the fourth one, they translate it as it's the son of one of them is the son of man. Well, what does that mean? He's the Labera, the son. What is the son of man? When they use it in the title and they want you to know they're talking about Jesus, it's this word. Ilatin. It's from this word, Eleha. It's God. First usage is, your Greek and your Aramaic. It's Aramaic, right? Come on. Yes, it is. It's like, it corresponds to like Eloha. Well, I'll show you Eloha. It's important too. But I don't talk about this one enough. So we got to talk about it now. This is the Aramaic, which is really important. Daniel, Ezra, and the Lord told them, read the book of Daniel and you'll know what's about to happen to you. He told me to tell you that now they read the book of Daniel and we should too. And thankfully that is getting out, The eye of their God was on the elders. It's another word for the God that we need to look at. So I pulled this up, but I could have just hit it like that. Ezra 5. So that's the Greek version. They have the Greek version and the Aramaic thrown in here, which is obviously about as strong a root word as you can go with, because sometimes when they translate a word, they'll just throw it in the pile. But that's pretty straight. It is like the son of the gods. That's who we serve. We just looked at that. Looks like I did not want you to miss that. The Zoe, because it leads to the life. And we studied this yesterday also, recently. And that's what we need, because, how may I obtain eternal life? Well, we understand that as individuals, when God, corrects us, or, when we reap what we sow, we understand. But so as a nation now, or the Christian nations, they were all Christian nations. What should we think right now? I think we should be happy to be running for our lives, remembering that in Matthew 19, verse 28, it says, Jesus said to them, truly I say to you, in the new world, when the Son of Man will sit on his glorious throne, you who have followed me will also sit on 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. And everyone who has left houses, or brothers, or sisters, or father, or mother, or children, or lands for my name's sake will receive 100-fold and will inherit eternal life. But many who are first will be last, and the last will be first. So as we go forward, realizing that, oh my goodness, we should read the Bible as it was written to them and learn from their obedience. Part of our understanding is going to be, and I've talked to RJ last night for quite a while about this, And it was on my heart because this is not what I believe, or I would have believed it at the time when Paul told it to me in Romans 14. Therefore, let us not pass judgment on one another any longer, but rather decide never to put a stumbling block or hindrance in the way of the brother. I know and am persuaded in the Lord Jesus that nothing is unclean in itself, but it is unclean for anyone who thinks it unclean. Okay. It's confusing because, and it goes on being confusing, who's the weaker brother? Should I, don't eat if you're around somebody and he's saying, I don't like it. Well, the Bible is an anthology. We read it as not that it's put there in order, but after the gospel, it was the book of Acts. So you can see, in the book of Acts, Paul really comes in chapters 8 and 9 and has this thing, and then he goes and teaches and he helps Rome. But it's not until later the Gentiles get saved, and that's already happened, that Acts 15 happened. And Acts 15, as you know, is a response to the book of Galatians, that there was a time when the Greeks and the Romans, they had read what Paul said and said, you know what, I don't like them doing that. Let's send some believers out pretending they belong to the party of the Pharisees, and we'll teach those Gentiles that it is necessary to circumcise them and order them to keep the laws of Moses. And that would have included the dietary laws and the eating. And so we understand that they were going to make a decision, and it talks about Peter here, I brought the word of God to the Gentiles, and now Paul's been talking to you. He's the Gentile apostle, and the assembly falls, and James says, here we go. We've talked all about it. So therefore they came to this, everybody agreed, and James made his judgment that the Jewish people should not trouble the Gentiles who turn to God, but there's only 4 things out of the whole thing. Here's you go, Gentiles. From our law, when you turn to God, you have to abstain from food polluted by idols, and from sexual immorality, and from what has been strangled, and from blood. And he goes and says, because even from the ancient generations, even before Moses, people did that. And he took it so seriously, they wrote it down and polished it up in a letter and made it doctrine forever for them and for us. That no, you don't go with the people that say, I don't think you could ever eat meat or this or that. Now it's settled. Yes, you can. You don't have to, but you can anytime you want. There's only 4 things from that law that Gentiles need to worry about, according to Scripture. The brothers, this is the following letter quoted. Both the apostles and elders to the brothers who are of the Gentiles in Antioch, Syria, and Cilicia, greeting. Since we heard that some fakers have gone out from us and troubled you with words, unsettling your mind, although we gave them no instruction, it has seemed good to us, having come to one accord, to choose men and send them to you with our beloved Barnabas and Paul, men who have risked their lives for the name, the reputation of our Lord Jesus Christ. We have therefore sent Judas and Silas, the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, and many more, who themselves will tell you the same things by word of mouth. For it seemed good to God, to the Holy Spirit, to the Father, to the Lord, and to us to lay on you no greater burden than now that they've had time to think about it, they said these are requirements. Not only are they these are not suggestions. These are the 4 things that if you want to call yourself a Christian, you have to do. Abstain from what has been sacrificed from idols and from blood and from what has been strangled. And now we know what doing that through the MK Ultra release of that makes adrenochrome. They're into it. And then they can be sexually immoral. If you keep yourself from these, you will do well. That's not like, well, it's a good idea if you do it. It might be well for you. The small word well is limited use 5 out of 6 times. And if you want to hear, well, it'll be well for you. If you want to hear well done, then it's good for you. That's how well it is. So that it may be well with you for eternity.
India. As we step inside, our eyes are drawn to 2 magnificent monolithic pillars. But look closer and you'll notice very distinct circular marks covering the pillars. This is very interesting because only a process of machining can leave such marks. To be clear, ancient civilizations like the Romans and Greeks never left marks like these when carving their columns. Their work typically shows vertical chisel marks, not the circular ones that we see here. The only thing that can leave such circular marks is machining the pillar with the help of a lathe. A lathe shows no deviation or chipping. They're super precise. In his video, Praveen pointed out how this hole here was used to attach the lathe. He even went one step further and rebuilt the whole thing at home. Now, you might think that such a setup wouldn't generate enough rotational power to carve something as hard as stone. And you would be completely right. And I thought,
And, and of course, what do? They show you the gears and then they take it to Atlantis.
dynasty that
That's
built
what
this temple.
that's what this world does.
But again,
That's what this world does. I'm going to wrap it up with showing you this one other thing I stumbled on here. What is this Mind Over Media EU? Does anybody know? Teaching propaganda during COVID, during 2020, this thing came out, and I'm just not quite sure what I'm seeing here. When and how to bring right-wing propaganda into the classroom? Youth for Climate. Romanian teachers recommend Mind Over Media, propaganda for critical. Now, I got this from that high school in, not Schenectady. Where was that guy? Because they were teaching, why teach about propaganda? And so I wanted to go, what is going on with that? A few reasons why educators around the world see the need to bring propaganda education into both formal and information learning with people of all ages, because propaganda activates strong emotion. People tend not to critically analyze it. Okay. Go wash your hands. Propaganda techniques can be used for a good cause. In those days, they realized that in Vietnam.
Let's dive straight in with our main story tonight, which concerns the subject that has dominated the news all week.
Global hot zones, the coronavirus spreading.
Fears grow of a global pandemic.
A huge spike in cases in Italy. Hundreds of cases in South Korea. New cases reported in Europe.
To stay safe.
Joy Johnson emailed us asking, can I get coronavirus from a package being delivered from China? That's a great...
The very basics down here straight away. What we're talking about is a sickness called COVID-19. Snap off my toes, you big unwashed buffer. But despite the government efforts at containment. The health minister standing next to him started mopping away fever sweat like an Alabama preacher.
Not in the least. When this was mentioned to me, I said I was delighted that I get to have the vice president helping in this way. Delighted. Absolutely.
Yeah, he just left. This was a press conference meant to calm the nation. And with the most basic question of who would be running things, even the announcement that he would be leading the task force was a debacle because Alex Azar, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, was already supposed to be chairing that task force. And Trump didn't seem interested in clarifying their roles or indeed really being there at all.
Wish him good luck.
Secretary Azar given the Pence move, do you the vice president?
I think if I could just clarify, I think you're not getting the point here of this. I'm still chairman of the task force,
You don't
so
feel like you're being replaced.
not in the least. When this was mentioned to me, I said I was delighted that I get to have the vice president helping in this way. Delighted. Absolutely.
Wow. Wow. This is a flat earth nation. It will remain a flat earth nation. The golden age is past. There's no reason to worry about what tomorrow will bring or next week, because even when our numbers up, nobody really ever dies. And I have a pretty good idea that the narrow road is going to fill up with people that have kind of checked through here. And that's just the way it's going to be. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arrivederci. Ciao. Sayonara. Auf Wiedersehen. Nakame.